Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Friday edition of Moohead Radio. I am your host, a big and furry bovine. And, there is stuff to talk about today that's happening. And, I was just going over this in my head and thinking to myself, how do I want to start the show today? Because there's so many directions I could take. But because the Browns are no longer really a factor as far as the rest of the NFL season, I figured I would just get them out of the way first before I talked about a couple of other things. In the case of the Browns, I would just, the headline saying, well, the Browns really wanted to talk to Gerard, whatever the fuck his name is, from New England, Mayo. And, but, Bill Belichick has said that they want to sign him for a long-term deal as a linebacker coach, probably promising him the sun, the moon, and the stars, that one day he will become a black defensive coordinator, just like Lovie Smith did. And that'll be the dead end for Jared Mayo, because that's the way it is in the NFL. I would steer clear of doing business with anybody who comes from that organization. All right. Going to make this very simple for the Browns front office to understand. Bill Belichick's a liar. Robert Kraft is a liar. Robert Kraft, as I'm sure, had more encounters with illegal people in this country than Deshaun Watson did with people who are advertising on Instagram. He is a predator, okay? Robert Kraft is, if you're going to call one guy a sexual predator, then get up off your ass and admit that Robert Kraft is a sexual predator, okay? That's the line every one of these haters wants to use. I would never do business with an organization like that. So I would just scratch him right off the list, and that would be the end of that. Also, the dysfunction continues with the Browns as Jadeveon Clowney has apologized to Myles Garrett for his favoritism comments. Carole King, man. Well, it's too late, baby. Now it's, Jadeveon Clowney, if he had any sense whatsoever, would have kept his mouth shut. But even at that, the Browns weren't going to bring him back because he didn't have a good year. And he wasn't motivated. You can say he wasn't used correctly. You can say any number of things, but he didn't really want to be here in the first place. Let's be honest with ourselves. He waited, and he waited for other organizations to make him an offer, and none of them did. So he accepted the Browns, and he played like he just played for a payday. And that's what I think of Jadeveon Clowney. It has nothing to do with his comments about Myles Garrett. It has nothing to do with anything that's happened in the last 2 weeks. It just has to do with the results on the field, the offseason, and the circumstances by which he re-signed with the Cleveland Browns. I would not want him back anyway. He made the full get down on your knees for the flavor that pleases. Cheeses of Nazareth, a new sponsor of the program.
Wow.
Oh, well, okay. Well, hey, I mean, the way I look at it is it's Friday. Ask Rebecca Black.
Friday the 13th.
Yep. Ask Rebecca Black. She knows all about Friday.
Yeah, living in the back seat.
Yep. Yep. And what days follow what days. It's really, I couldn't believe how old she is now.
How old is she?
56. No.
Yeah.
Yeah. Darn sure flies. I don't know how old she is, but I mean, she's old compared to what she was. She's old. She was only 13 years old when people were shitting all over her. So I imagine that was what, who knows how many years ago that was? 12 years ago? I don't know. So she's
wow.
25 to 30 years of age now. She's a grown woman,
I'll tell you who's old is Tiffany. We think we're alone now.
I wonder if she walks into a mall and just starts performing.
She probably does. No, actually, one of my high school bandmates was her guitar player for quite a long time, believe it or not. So
really,
yeah. Yeah. So she's in her 50s. She's not young.
Wow. It's amazing how time flies. Double P is just as happy as I am. I don't want New England coaches either. Their failure rate is really more so than, a Yugo. I mean, I don't want to have that dates me. A lot of people listen, what's a Yugo?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, go back and look at a Yugoslavian manufactured car in the 80s, and then you'll understand my reference. But that is
Yugoslavia.
a 40-year-old joke. Sorry. And Clowney is saying, as a son and a parent, I want to fully apologize to anyone offended. Well, you shouldn't have opened your mouth. And the bottom line is I don't care about him, and I don't care where he goes, and be done with him. As far as anything else about the Cleveland Browns, well, Schwartz is going to be interviewed, and Brian Flores will be interviewed. Brian Flores will be interviewed and walked away from. And Schwartz is somebody who, if nothing else, can provide accounting help.
Yeah, he's going to do the bookkeeping for the defensive lineman. He'll be
Mr.
like Carl
Haslam, I can help you with the defensive front and your books. Yeah. So the one thing I can say about Schwartz is that he's seasoned. He's not a head coach, but he's precisely the kind of guy who becomes an interim head coach. Ask Romeo Crennel,
Absolutely. That's what they're looking for. They're looking for that interim head coach guy,
Yeah. Well, I think that what they really should be looking for is somebody who has a scheme. And
that would make sense.
Yeah. The thing is, though, we're not going to go 3-4.
No.
And there are a number of defensive coordinators who won't utilize the 3-4. And that ain't going to work with Myles Garrett. And we know that Myles Garrett owns the stadium because he jumps off sides and does whatever he wants to do. Yeah. And he's thin-skinned and gets insulted by people like Jadeveon Clowney.
Oh, and he would never, ever play in a 3-4 because that's too much responsibility. He'd have to close off an entire end. And
no, he'd have to give up sacks to somebody else. Exactly, and that's not going to happen. That's exactly right, Rick. And Mark Lewis, hey, how you doing? I'm having a wonderful day, and it's because of viewers like you. Honestly, I had something happen. I was helping my father out. My father is 92 years old and wants to podcast. Okay. Right. I think that he might be like one of one of America's oldest podcasters. And so I was doing a test from his house because his internet was all screwed up. And, my gosh, his wife was using AOL online. And I'm like, wow. Boy, I got my work cut out for me. So it took me the better part of about 2.5 hours to figure out how to reboot everything in such a way so that they were actually getting the internet speed that they were paying for. And I was doing a test and it was working. So it was great. But I needed confirmation that the microphone was operating because it wasn't showing that it was operating inside the StreamYard studio. And who was there but the Steelers fan?
All right.
Yeah. And he said, yeah, I can hear you. It sounds good. And I was like, hey, thanks a lot, dude. I take back, yeah,
there you go.
And look, not all Steeler fans are nose pickers. All right. Well, any more than Browns fans or anybody else. And you know that I have disagreements with Browns fans who have abandoned their team. I have a real problem for that.
You have disagreements with fans who stick with the team too. So you're you have just disagreements. So
sometimes it's just hype, just, hey, it's like for so many years, we were just praying to the baby Jesus that the Pittsburgh game would really be a rivalry because it was so one-sided that they would just beat us like a government mule. And
Wow.
you really want to make something, again, that interstate kind of rivalry thing.
Yeah.
And when we got them in the playoffs, that had to sting Steeler fans because it wasn't just losing, it was losing to the Browns. And, so we kind of rekindled some of that.
Yeah,
And
but we wasted it the following week when we got beat by Kansas City on a bunch of bad calls and head injuries and Chad Henne. So
yeah,
there you
I
go.
mean, it's Double P saying the roads are in bad condition up there in Cleveland. Let's see how dead. Don't get me started.
Wow.
Yeah, they're expecting winter storms up north, and I'm sure Northern Ohio is going to get affected.
Yeah, we got our usual 50 degrees and 50-mile-an-hour winds.
Yeah, very windy down here. I mean, and the temperatures are dropping. We're going to have a low like of 33 degrees Saturday night. And when it gets that cold down here, then you know something's happening up north.
The old iguanas are falling out of the trees. Yeah.
I was talking to some people up in Rochester, New York, and they were saying that they were being warned about possible lake effect snow. People in Buffalo don't have to be warned after what the hell happened to them. So
are they still alive? I mean, have they dug them out yet?
Yeah, I think for the most part, yes. So realistically, that's all I have to say about the Browns at this point. Is they're just going to have to find a defensive coordinator. I don't think Flores is going to be a guy who is, I think they have to, if they're releasing an African-American, they're going to have to do the Rooney thing.
Even though they sort of balance the universe out, they have to hire another one, huh?
Yeah. Here, your thoughts on trading for, what do we have to trade for DeAndre Hopkins, Double P?
D Haslam. We'll trade him D Haslam.
I mean, yeah, it would be nice to have DeAndre Hopkins, but it would also be nice, if I were getting a blowjob right now. I don't think, I mean, how are you going to do it? You've got no assets to trade them. All of your number one picks and all that shit are already committed to other teams.
It's like Chico Simone and Carl Yastrzemski all over again, isn't it?
Yeah. DeAndre Hopkins isn't just going to show up to Cleveland one day unless he's lost. And then he'd be asking for directions and getting the fuck out. I think a lot of names, Brandon Cook's name is going to come up now because Brandon Cooks has stated for the record that he wants out and that he wants to play to win at this point in his life and that he's tired of life in Houston with the Texans. And
aren't we all?
Yeah. But he's not a game-breaking kind of guy. He's a guy who, Deshaun Watson has worked with. But be that as it may, he had Double P, a fourth rounder, Chico Simone, right? For Carl Yastrzemski.
Yeah, look him up.
Right.
We could talk all day about all these obscure references, and half the audience would just go, who are these people?
What audience? What audience? You know something I don't?
There's got to be at least 10 people watching this.
You would think that somebody is, but yeah, right now it's a low number, and I don't want to discuss that. As far as what I want to talk about next is a winning team, the Cleveland Cavaliers.
I didn't see the game. You have to tell me about it because it was on way too late in the morning for me.
I stayed up for the whole thing. I just had a feeling that it would be worthwhile to do so. I had promised that I was going to go to bed at half, and Rox went to bed, and I just was like, oh, I got to turn it on. I just got to see this, and there you go. I was up for the whole second half of the game. To put it in as far as if you didn't see the game, Donovan Mitchell really did Double P. Yes, he slow started And it looked like the Trailblazers were in control, and Damian Lillard was just honest to God. I mean, he was, he ended up with 50 points. He was busting our chops, and he was coming off of a questionable whether he would play last night. And man, he came out on the floor rip roaring, ripping in threes. They made a bunch. I think they made like 12 of their first 13 shots to start the game.
Wow.
We could not really, we hung around is the best way of putting it. We would get it back to 5-7 points, and they would bump it up to 12-14 points, and we would trim it back down. But fourth quarter, and Donovan Mitchell, you're the thing when you have a superstar, you're never out of a game if you're close in the fourth quarter. Yeah. And the third quarter kind of came to an end with the score, kind of narrowing down like 5-point separation. And then the fourth quarter, we get close and they would bounce away. Then finally, of all things, the game gets tied at 95 by a corner three by Isaac Okoro. And then the game is suddenly tied.
Wow.
And then we were kind of playing leapfrog with one another, going back and forth. But the Cavaliers put on a really solid defensive display at the end of the game, the last 4 minutes or so of the game, in which they were able to bump up to an 8-point lead. And that's when Donovan Mitchell started hitting perimeter shots, and the defense really started making a better effort to stay in front of Damian Lillard, who was scoring a lot of his points going to the basket. And for those, Ron Shane will give you
how was Rubio?
Yeah, Rubio was rusty to start the game. He made 2 of his 4 3-point shots. He ended up with 9 points. He did fine, and it had to be a real lift for the team seeing him out there. And it's the first action in 380 days. And I mean, if we're going to give Deshaun Watson a break, we gotta give Ricky Rubio a break. And the thing about Rubio is that his game is not really ever been predicated on sheer speed, but on sheer smarts, knowing where he is on the floor, knowing what his role is, and finding the people to throw the ball to. The thing that was great about the game yesterday was that the 2 big men, Jared Allen back from his illness, and Evan Mobley, 24 points for Jared Allen, and 17 points, and only like 24 minutes for Mobley as they're resting him because, these West Coast trips, they can, take the starch out of you. But Mobley played large. He played good defense down the stretch, and Jared Allen was just a rock down low. A lot of penetrations by Darius Garland that ended up in dunks, assists and dunks, 20 points, 10 assists for Garland. And it was an exciting game. It came down to who was more rugged and tough. And the fact is with the exception of Nurkic, who's not that athletic a big man, they have a lot of thoroughbreds, but they don't have a lot of gutty, gritty guys who just kind of, run you down as far as physically. And I don't think that Karis LeVert had a good game at all. But I think in the last 3.5 minutes of the game, he finally started making an effort to chest up Damian Lillard to stop him from just prancing into the middle of the lane and going to the hoop. He was the one who was guarding Lillard, and Lillard scored 50 points. So what does that tell you? But again, the big men started blocking shots, started getting the rebounds, no second shot opportunities. And it happened at a point of time where Donovan Mitchell hit 2 3-point, one a pull up and the other one a step back. and also a driving layup in which he slashed through about 3 guys to get to the hole. That happened at a short burst of time and put the Cavaliers up. I want to say just in it was something like 115 to 107 or something of that nature. And they just couldn't get back into the game because they had to shoot threes and then they missed a few, and that was that. Game over.
Wow.
Yeah, so I really was happy with the way the Cavaliers played, but more important than that, the team on the road winning in the fourth quarter down the stretch is something we haven't seen this year. We've seen the Cavaliers close in fourth quarters in road games and find disappointing ways to lose.
Oh God, like the other night, that was horrific.
That's right, and that's what we've seen. But this was a good first sign of the team really just kind of lifting its own spirits and getting the job done with elbow grease at the end of a game. The Trailblazers at 19 and 22 right now are not exactly an overperforming bunch, and I think that Cleveland has the better roster, and I think that in all of these games, the game that we just lost that was ridiculous to the Jazz, I really believe we have a much better roster than they do. But when a team scores 7 points in 13 seconds because of 2 3-point shots to go in and a foul called at the same time, when the guy was diving into our guy,
flagrant call.
I mean, I just don't understand, but be that as it may, they learned something from it and they did better. And now, who's next? I think the Timberwolves are next. Is that what?
I believe they are, yeah.
And then we're coming on back. But when we come back, we're going to be facing more Western Conference teams, which is kind of an interesting point to the schedule. Hello, Christopher Milton Sr. How you doing? So, it was overall a very, very enjoyable game to watch. And it left me like in a mood to go to sleep and be happy and, but also saying that's the way you put somebody away and you get the ball in your hands of your best offensive players who are, Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland. And if they're going to run out second men at them, you get the ball down low and you get you shoot from short distance. Anytime you get a stop makes no difference. A 2 will work. A 3 can be backbreaker. And that's why Donovan Mitchell's our backbreaker. He's not afraid to put that shot up, and he's remarkably accurate with it. Hey, we have a winner. Bing, bing, bing. $50 last night on Donovan's 25 plus points, 4 assists, and 3.5 rebounds. There you go. $50. Who was dumb enough to bet you, Christopher? What's the story?
He is officially a Caesar.
No, either that or he just fleeced Bernie Kosar out of more money.
I am a Caesar.
Boy. Poor Bernie.
Poor Bernie.
Oh. Now, wouldn't it be interesting? Bernie's got the right first name for Jim Schwartz. Bernie Schwartz.
That'd be a great accounting name.
Do you know who let's see how good you are. The actor whose name in real life was Bernie Schwartz.
Not without looking. No, don't know.
Tony Curtis.
Tony Curtis.
Tony Curtis is yeah. Look at these. I guess this is the thing. Oh, and FanDuel. Oh, okay. Well, this is the thing now. See, I'm anti-gambling. Everybody knows that. But when I first started this podcast, I was wooed by so many offshore gambling outfits. It was aggravating the hell out of me. I don't know. If you're having fun, if you're earning enough money to do it, have fun. But man, I have known so many people in their lives who ended up having trouble with that.
Yeah, I knew one young lad who got a credit card and he ended up being a debt restructuring agreement when he was like 20 years old. Glad who worked for me. Ruined his life.
Wow. Yeah.
Absolutely ruined his life. He's probably still paying for it. That was like 10 years ago.
But what I'm looking at, Allen with 24-10, Mobley with 17-8, and the two big men between them had 9 assists too. So they're passing the ball as well as just taking it to the hole. Mobley did play just 25 minutes, and he was hit 50% of his shots from the floor. And Allen, who's sixth in the league, 62% shooting from the field, he made 11 of 17 in the game. So he was right there.
What was up with him the other day? He said he was sick or something in that Utah game, and he only played like the first quarter, and then
the word is that he had food poisoning. That's
nobody likes that.
What I had heard from kind of inside sources. Whether that's true, I believe it, because the fact that he came back the next game would indicate that he didn't have a flu or anything like that. The Cavaliers are still leading the NBA in defense at 109.2. The Cavs are also one of the league's best at protecting the paint down low. We're only giving up 45 points a game in the paint. But there were 52 in Portland. And a lot of that was Damian Lillard going right down the lane with the ball. But the Cavaliers out-rebounded the Blazers 44-36. So
don't let these free bets suck you in, guys. It is a problem.
And right now, Allen has about 9.8 rebounds per contest, while Mobley has 8.8. And slowly but surely, Mobley is starting to get moving again and heading in a right direction. I'm seeing him being a little bit more forceful in getting his shots. And not only that, if we can get him to be a 20-10 guy, Jared Allen is not going to be a 20-10 guy all the time. But he will be a guy who can get you the rebounds, and he's a big body. And if he's down low in the key, he can put the ball up, and he's going to make that short shot. Very good at using the backboard in the paint. Somebody's
have we reached the reach around section of the program?
No. And quit crunching your damn pretzels. What are you doing? Sorry. Eating the whole bag? You're Tony the capping me.
I am capping you, aren't I?
God almighty, that's like a bad flashback. Hey, Tom Holly, how you doing?
Cheeto dust all over my hands.
Christopher, at 61 years old and being a Cleveland sports fan, you've earned it. For all you do, this FanDuel's for you. CO Den is asking me, Bruce Drennan. Hi, I'm Bruce Drennan for FanDuel.
From prison. Bruce Drennan in prison talking for FanDuel. They could get Art Sleester while they're at it. You have Bruce Drennan, Bernie Kosar, and Art Sleester do a FanDuel special.
What I was thinking about Bruce and was, Texas. I thought they said Texas. I thought I misunderstood them.
There you go.
That was really, and that was the early years of my show. I was so distraught when Bruce Drennan went to prison, and he was actually in prison, I think, in West Virginia.
Yeah.
And that's really scary in and of itself too, because the guy who's trying to play with your pee-pee doesn't know how to read.
Yeah, he just sings down in the valley.
People must watch this podcast and go, he hates everybody, It's like he has a bad thing to say about everybody. It's like, no, I'm actually a really soft-hearted cow. But
you're like the Stay Puft Marshmallow guy in the inside.
Yeah, that's right. I'm lovable in an acerbic kind of way. And acerbic, ASCERBIC, for those people in West Virginia.
Who can't spell.
That's one thing. I've been in West Virginia before,
I've driven through it a few times. That was enough for me.
They don't have any fucking road signs down there because nobody can read them.
Boom. Drive up through West Virginia on US 50, heading towards like Southern Ohio, man, that's an experience. Took my missus down there when she was like, when we were in our 20s, and she said, "Oh, people actually do live like this in the movies." And I go, "Yeah, they do."
Oh, we got. Oh, who was the reporter? The Fox reporter, I think, is what CO did. He's saying Chuck or something had
What,
numerous.
Chuck Booms?
What?
Was it Chuck Booms?
Yeah, and Chuck Booms was a radio guy, and and then who was the guy the asshole who ran after Kellen Winslow Jr.?
Oh,
He was the old Fox reporter up there in Cleveland, and he was trying to make a big name for himself. Oh, Christopher Milton says, who's on the radio up there? Chuck Booms is on 8:50 a.m. Is that correct?
He probably is, I think.
Wow. Yeah, he was part of a tandem.
Yeah.
And the two men had a separation that was not real pleasant, I guess. Radio talk, but Chuck's got Booms has an act. If you like the act, great. If you don't like the act, go somewhere else. There's always somewhere else to go.
Yeah, everybody's got an act. You got an act. Everyone has an act.
Yeah, I can't. Galletti, Chuck Galletti, was that the guy?
Yeah, it might have been.
What was Galetti's first name?
Are we slandering anybody here?
No, I'm not slandering anybody. The guy ran after Kellen Winslow Jr., making an ass of himself.
Yeah,
that was
right.
Galetti. I think that's the one you're thinking of. And I don't know whatever happened to him. But if anyone in the chat room knows, I'm always more than happy to stay with him and insult the hell out of him. Yeah. Ricky Rubio was a +6 while he was on the floor. Now, he only played, he was only targeted to play 14 minutes. I don't know how many minutes he actually played in the game. But, he was a +6. Only 10 minutes on the floor. They're going to bring him along slowly.
There you go. He is old, though.
Ricky Rubio is like 32. And, man, he has a hot wife, too. Oh, that's right, Amsterdam. Kylie and Booms. That was his partner.
Kylie Minogue.
Yeah,
the wrong one.
No, we've already talked about Bruce Drennan. It's Chuck Galletti, who's the guy who I'd love to know whatever happened to him. What a piece of work he was. Donovan Mitchell, get this, is averaging 37 points per game in the month of January.
That's pretty good.
And he's playing 37.4 minutes. He's a point a minute guy in the month of January.
Yeah.
That's just...
well, you know what? I hope he's a point a minute guy in the month of June. We'll be really happy if that's the case.
Oh, CO Dead says, yes, it is Chuck. See, sometimes my memory doesn't fail me. Sometimes, I guess, a cow has to be right once in a while. Two players in the NBA have 140 three-point shot attempts, shooting better than 40% from behind the three. And the other one is Buddy Hield of the Pacers. And we know Buddy Hield, if you give him open looks, playing in an open floor kind of game, he can be bad news.
Never saw a shot he didn't like.
Yeah, and or defense that he wanted to play. Oh, is Bruce on 8:50 on the weekends? Oh, I got you, Christopher. I'd like to. I'm going to have to give him a call.
Yeah, you'll have to ring him up and say it's Mark from Sarasota or whatever.
Yeah. I'd love to talk.
I love you.
He really is a good fella. So, yeah, he's a good fella, and it was a shame that what he went through. I don't think anybody would want to go through that. If you saw the movie Stir Crazy, you'll understand.
Yeah.
And Darius Garland, had 20 points and 10 assists against the Blazers. Now, he has done the 2010 thing on 5 separate occasions this year.
Wow.
All right. He's sixth in the NBA in assists. It's at almost 7.8 per game. And there's only 2 players averaging 20 points per game and 7 assists per game while shooting at least 39% from the floor. And those 2 guys would be Tyrese Halliburton, also of the Pacers, and they do play that up and down game, and Darius Garland. So and Darius Garland is not going to be an all-star this year. I think the only one is going to be Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah.
And that's too bad, but that's kind of how it plays out. Now, what I want to do for the remaining time, whatever I feel like doing here, no, not that kind of good fella, Rick. He's a good fella in the sense that he's a nice and friendly guy. Being a radio guy, Bruce and I hit it off right away. But not in the Ray Liotta, mold.
Yeah, he's dead too.
Yeah, that's true.
The BCOD.
Those guys don't live, though. Those good fellas don't live for long. Yeah. I'm amazed Joe Pesci's made it this far.
They fuck you at the drive-thru, though.
Every time. Yep. So the NFL, there are some intriguing stories going on here. I mean,
really?
Derek Carr basically stepped aside for the last 2 games. He's moving on. That was just it. 2 years ago, he said he never wanted to leave Las Vegas, and now he's leaving Las Vegas.
Yeah, didn't Sheryl Crow say that?
Yeah, Sheryl Crow, very good.
You know where I think he'll end up at? He'll probably end up in the Harbaugh and the Ravens. That's what I think will happen.
Well,
they won't sign Lamar, and he'd be like a good fit for Johnny or Jimmy or whoever.
I know where there would be the most mass suicides of a football franchise, and that's if the Colts got him.
Well, a lot of Colt quarterbacks go there to die, don't they? So,
well, no, I mean, stop and think about it. Phillip Rivers, Carson Wentz, and Matt Ryan.
They all go there.
That's the trifecta right there. And if we can go for 4. Yeah. So
Carson Wentz.
Yeah, and the thing that's amazing is there were Browns fans who were, we need Derek Carr. That's what we need. We don't need Derek Carr. Like I need a staph infection.
I mean, we need my mother the Carr. That's
God, that's just not so good. A thing that is not NFL related, but a story that jumped out at me, and my God, offensive coordinator Garrett Riley up and left TCU after that abominable 65-7 thrashing.
He resigned?
And, well, no, not exactly. He is going to become the offensive coordinator at Clemson.
Oh, wow.
So he's moving up, to the top tier. Everybody wants to get out of TCU right now because it's a high water mark. And a guy like this, Garrett Riley, it's an offensive coordinator. Things went so well for that school, and they're losing all of their main pieces. Think of it this way. Heisman finalist Max Duggan, elite receiver Quentin Johnston, and starting running back Kendre Miller are all gone. 3 offensive linemen are leaving.
Wow.
So this could be like one of those. Do you remember that year TCU actually made it to the finals and got thrashed? You're not going to be hearing from them. And I think, I think Garrett Riley is like, look, I'm not a head coach. I don't want to be a head coach. I'm an offensive coordinator. And you know something? That opening at Clemson, we saw Alabama burp, and Clemson is burped, but they are powerful universities, tier 1, and they recruit like a motherfucker. And he's going to get players, a lot better players than he had at TCU. So gone. He just decides he's off. and it's really he turned down Texas A&M for Clemson.
Yeah. Yeah, I would too.
Oh yeah, well, who wouldn't? And Tom Hawley, yeah, I did see. Hill has saved his two children, and he's off. They got the tube out of him, so he's breathing on his own. And I hope that Peyton Hillis is okay.
Yeah. He was never the same after he was on the cover of Madden, though. That's when it all went horribly wrong for him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's sometimes instant fame. Sometimes it's best to earn it slowly. That instant fame thing is like the one-hit wonder thing for musicians. Yeah. You get a big hype. Terrence Trent D'Arby. Wishing well and all that stuff. And I'm trying to remember the name. The something
Sign Your
truth
Name.
According to something truth.
Oh, the name of the album. Yeah, the name of the album. Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone was saying he was the next great thing, and he turned out to be really arrogant, and he rubbed people the wrong way, and you don't do that in the music business, and he just turned into a big zero. And nothing ever happened for him. So now the games that we have to watch this weekend.
Do we have to?
I have to, but I'll tell you this: it's going to be a lot of teams who are crippled.
A lot of bad teams, a lot of practice squad players, like I said, was going to happen back in September. And I think every single I'll cut to the chase and say every single division winning team is going to win this weekend. So all the home teams are going to win. Every single wild card team is going to lose.
I mean, not that I care about these games, but Geno Smith is not going to win at the 49ers. And it's not that I think the 49ers are such a great team. It's that Geno Smith ended up right where we knew he would, 500, because Geno Smith is that guy.
Yeah.
He's Jacoby Brissett, right?
Yeah.
If he got a good team, he can go 500. But when you need him to rise above the occasion, he got off to a really good start this year, and people were saying, God, look at that. Geno's outperforming, down in Denver, Russell Wilson. And wow, that really worked out great for us. Well, in the long run, no. So the Seahawks, the only thing of interest is Brock Purdy, who has become, my God, the Dick Foles of this season. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Now that could actually happen, though. I mean, I don't know. I think the 49ers will progress kind of far.
Yeah, well, Brock Purdy is really, he's kind of like the underdog guy, and at least in that game, it isn't injuries that are going to be the primary factor. Renee has been bothering me about why I don't see that the Jaguars are a legitimate playoff team. And, look, they are a legitimate playoff team because they're in the playoffs. They're a 500 team. They're a 500 team. And if they were in any other division, they wouldn't have made it. All right.
Yeah.
But the fact is, Mike Williams now has a fractured back.
Yeah.
He's
that's
finished.
Terrible. Yeah.
He's finished. And so without his main weapon, the real question is Justin Herbert is going to be throwing to a less than full, wide receiver crew.
And I've always liked the Jags defense this year, man. I think their defense is underrated. So, and now watch San Diego puts up 80 points. But, no, like I said, I think all of the division winners are going to win. So,
yeah, I mean, Justin Herbert and Trevor Lawrence have never made a playoff start. All right, so This is a first for both men. The fact that the game is at the Jaguars, that stadium's going to be jumping, and it hasn't been jumping for a long time, except when they chased Urban Meyer out of there. This is, Trevor Lawrence had to win last week. He did to get him into the playoffs. Yeah. We'll see what happens. And who do I think is going to win? I mean, I'll be honest with you. the Chargers have underperformed because
Yep.
Staley, their head coach, takes abominable
Oh,
chances.
he's Zach Taylor of the West, isn't he?
Yeah, I
He is
mean,
awful.
crazy, risky things that not good. And they're at home. They're going to get some home cooking and some real juice from the crowd. And I'll say this: Trevor Lawrence has a nice soft touch on a long ball if he makes some big plays. And the thing about San Diego, the Chargers, is that they are prone to giving up points. And when they were winning last year and doing much better, they were still giving up a lot of points. So this game could be a pick'em game. And who would I like to see win? I'd like to see the Jaguars win because, the fans have had nothing to cheer about.
Yep.
Since Jacksonville came in the league. They had Jim Zorn. No, he was in Seattle. Who in the hell did they ever have?
Oh.
Who did the Jaguars ever? Oh, who? What was the kid from Central Florida? Bortles.
Blake
Bortles. Yeah. I mean, it hasn't been good for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And especially as of late, it's been really
Peter
bad.
Alice talking about the Jacksonville Jaguars. They don't have much history.
Popcorn, peanuts, stadium empty. Hello.
They play most of their games in London.
Yeah, I mean, it's like they're preparing Europe for the Jags.
Yeah, they are.
And to be honest, Jacksonville is a funny Florida market. Florida markets are notoriously funny to begin with. To keep the interest of people in Miami or people in Tampa is difficult. Ask the Rays, who have all kinds of problems drawing fans into their
stats.
I'm glad you brought my name up, Bronk. We're not gonna start this,
Does he think Tampa's gonna win, old Dwayne? Beat the Cowboys. I think they will.
But we'll have Dwayne predict that when the game comes up here. But Justin Herbert's a guy who can get hot. He can be really good. But I really want the Jaguars to win because their fans are a long-suffering, kind of group. And I don't like Brandon Staley. I just don't like the way he does his thing. The Dolphins and the Bills is a joke.
Yeah, that'll be an annihilation, I think.
I mean, they're starting. I mean, Tua's been ruled out, and Skylar Thompson, is preparing to start.
That sounds like some background Harry Potter character,
and running back Raheem Mostert's status is uncertain after he underwent surgery on a broken thumb on Monday.
Ooh.
Mostert ran for 136 yards against the Bills when the teams played in Buffalo the last time around last month. I can't imagine the Dolphins even being in this game. And, so injuries. And it was interesting because there were leaks about what Brian Flores said about Tua. And he disdained Tua because he would go out and he would go golfing instead of putting in extra work. And that he felt that he wasn't a hard worker.
Wow.
And that was the reason why he turned on Tua. And it was like anybody but Tua. The real problem for Tua is that if he's not working hard, if he thinks he's going to scramble his way through the league, what's going to get scrambled are his brains.
Yep.
And that's not something that anybody wants to see. So the next one is the Giants at the Vikings. And you know something?
Well, now that could be an upset. Because you never know with
Brian
the Vikings.
Daboll, you know,
Yeah, I know. They got Brian Daboll.
God, it looks like Daboll. Yeah. Must be what?
Oh, you got me.
The Browns in my eyes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Again, Brian Daboll had this wonderful year with the Giants, and it's not going to be a lasting thing. I guarantee you. Next year,
I
they're going
think
to be right back in the dumper. They don't have a quarterback.
the Vikings should win this game, but every time I say the Vikings are going to win something, they let you down. So
Daniel Jones is a man. He's a big man. I don't know. And Kirk Cousins is up and down. The one thing that makes Kirk Cousins remarkable is he's beyond the little girl with the curls, because when he's bad, he's very, very bad. In fact, the whole Vikings team, when they lose, they're
awful. Yeah.
They get blown out. So,
this game could, stay away from it.
The Giants blitzed 43% of Cousins' dropbacks in their last matchup and sacked him 4 times. So you know how they're going to attack Cousins. They're not going to let him sit back there. They're going to force him to use his eyes.
Oh, that's never a good thing.
So at any rate, that's that. And Justin Jefferson, big receiver, he's got to have a big day instead of shooting his mouth off. I get tired of that shit. It's you would think the Vikings should win that game, but
never know.
I don't see either of these teams as being a factor deeper into the playoffs.
Oh yeah, either one will get stumped the following week when they have to play a real team.
And then there were the Ravens at the Bengals. And wait a minute, I gotta at least put some liquid in my mouth here.
Oh, not the Moohead.
Overrated. Overrated. I mean, you're telling me the guy doesn't sign a contract with the Ravens. This is what they're expecting me to believe. He has this knee injury.
Yeah.
And he comes out to the press, Lamar Jackson does, and says, my knee's unstable and it's a PCL problem.
Ooh.
And and with no explanation, it's suddenly a PCL problem that still has swelling in it. Now, somebody just being quiet about this, the organization just being quiet, what's the deal? But I'll say this. In the worst case scenario, a guy who has that kind of sensitivity in his knee, and if he's got some kind of a PCL injury, which is what he's saying, the PCL is something that stabilizes the knee and it can be repaired, but there hasn't been any talk about if he needed surgery, why didn't he have it?
Yeah.
I don't understand what all is going on, but I do know this, that Lamar Jackson has led the organization down a dark alley, and and Harbaugh is just the king of keeping his mouth shut. There may be some other explanation to all this, but Huntley's going to be playing. He's back to throwing. His tendonitis in his throwing arm has calmed down enough to allow him to play. Anthony Brown is the third choice or the second choice in this instance, and you don't want him out on the field. But the Ravens are going to have to play the defensive game of a lifetime. and cocky Joe Burrow is going to have to just, be, spinning his dick and, twirling his dick on the field and playing Mr. Big Man on campus for the Ravens to have a chance to win this game, because they were scoring 25 points a game with Lamar Jackson, and that gets cut in half to 12.5 with Tyler Huntley. So 12.5 points ain't going to get it done against the Bengals unless Zach Taylor intercedes in the proceedings, which is always possible. Yeah. Anything is possible. But again, injuries play such a role in the playoffs. And, the Bengals, by the way, the NFL's third least penalized team. Looks like the league's getting on board there. The Ravens ranked fourth. Isn't it amazing that all of these teams, the NFL really helps out certain types of teams when they got the quarterback, they're publicizing him left and right, and suddenly they're getting less penalties than everyone around the league. As far as Lamar Jackson, he is overrated. I will continue to say he's overrated until he actually accomplishes something. And I will also say thank you, Ronald Forgus. Mark Brunell. That's who the lefty was. I was all zorned out, right? But Brunell was the lefty I was thinking of, who played in Jacksonville. Thank you. See, again, the cow's brain isn't what it used to be. So that's why I have a bunch of pasture heads in the chat room. Set me straight. But thank you, Ronald. I appreciate it. Lamar Jackson is just a guy who, if he's already starting to suffer injuries that go on and on and on like this, and the last 2 years have been like this, I mean, he's not healing up. And this is really bad. And it's bad for the organization. The organization has no choice but to throw money at him. But I'll tell you, he's going to grab his knee one time, not be able to get up and play, period. That's
he'll be Austin Carr, man. He'll Austin Carr it.
Didn't I predict this before the season began?
Pretty much.
And I tried to tell Joe Shipley, he was saying the greatest quarterback, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like saying to him, yeah, if he's able to stand up. Then there's the Cowboys and the Buccaneers, which wouldn't be a hard game to predict if it weren't for the Cowboys being in the game. You just want Jerry Jones to lose. All right.
God, yeah.
And Dak Prescott is quite honestly never been what they expected him to be. And
he was terrible. Wasn't he like 30 passer rating the other day?
I mean, and Tampa Bay's getting their defensive tackle back via, and that's going to be something because he really helped them stop the running game and force Dak Prescott to keep throwing the football. And Dak Prescott needs balance in order to be effective.
Yeah, I think Dwayne Stats would probably agree with that.
Yeah, and I do want to point something out to you, Brock. The Bucs are 6-2 this season when Villa and Akeem Hicks are on the field together.
Ooh, that's pretty good.
And they're 14-0 when they've both scored with women the night before the game.
Woo!
Yeah, well, most people believe the Cowboys are going to win because, Tom Brady is just the Cowboys are 0-7 though against Brady. When they see Brady, they shit
wet themselves. Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah, yellow side on the front, brown side on the back whenever they play Brady.
Yeah. And what I'll tell you is this: if they go down the shitter, the fans in Dallas are going to be calling for heads, man.
Stephen A. Smith will find it funny, I think.
Yeah. So, at any rate, that's what I know.
It. That's all.
Yeah, Robbie Knievel, the son of Evil Knievel, dies at 60. It wasn't because he did some crazy jump. He had pancreatic cancer.
Yeah, it wasn't the black collar death.
and Lisa Marie Presley left the building, and that's
Another one too. Randy Bachman of Taking Care of Business.
oh, are you
BTO.
kidding? Did he
No,
pass
I'm
away?
not. Yeah.
When?
Today, I think.
Oh my God, how old was he?
I don't know, but I think he was maybe 70.
Oh, for God's
no.
sake. I can imagine the Burton Cummings is just crushed. Those two men had kind of an interesting relationship.
79.
79. How about
Randy
that?
Bachman.
Time flies, but that hurts. Great songs, not only with BTO, but I mean, he was a driving rock force, and helping out with songs like American Woman. The harder side of the Guess Who was almost always, when you heard Let It
Oh,
Ride.
no. It's not Randy Bachman. It's the other Bachman. Sorry. The drummer. There were two Bachmans. It's the other Bachman.
Oh,
so it's
good.
the drummer's dead. Not the guitar player. Not the I scared you there, didn't I? But no, it's
I mean,
drummer.
Randy Bachman is big time. Also, Jeff Beck, of course, of the
Beck.
Small Faces and of his own solo career, the Jeff Beck group, passed away at 78. And that's too bad because he was a great guitarist.
Yeah, the Randy Bachman, the brother, is still very much alive. It's Robbie Bachman.
All right. Sorry about that. Now, Sean McVay finally told the Rams he's staying as coach. And so that takes away any of this TV thing that he was going to do. No. And it virtually ensures that Baker Mayfield is not going to have a job unless he wants to play backup to Matthew Stafford, and which isn't going to happen.
I think he should go to the CFL. I think he'd do well up in Canada.
I mean, I'd like to see him in indoor football league.
Yeah, or that. One or the other.
No.
But not the NFL.
All right. Well, I mean, I'm done. I've said everything I'm going to say. I'm going to watch some of the games. I got nothing better to do tomorrow. And, I have more interest in some than others. But I think I'll watch the Jags. What day? Who is the Saturday games? Who's the Sunday game?
Oh, I can look that up. You think I would know this stuff, but I don't. I think
I would.
The Tampa Cowboys game's the Monday night game that I know for a fact, and then so I won't be watching that.
I can look this up. I suppose.
Let's see. Cincinnati, Minnesota, and Buffalo are on Sunday. So Buffalo is first, Minnesota next, and then Cincinnati, Baltimore's night games. Saturday games are San Francisco first and Jacksonville second. So
I'll watch that Jacksonville game. I want to see that. And plus, I want to be able to debate with Renee after the game.
Yeah.
So everybody, have yourself an enjoyable weekend. Of course, there's no halftime and post-game show. We're out of this. But I'll be watching the Cavaliers and watching the football games. I'll be back on Monday, and we'll talk about the outcomes of all these things. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks, Bronk, for helping out.
Oh, I love you, Cleveland.
And I will see you all on Monday. Until then, hasta la vista, Pastor Heads. Good night.